what we know is that the amount of energy or the amount of calories burned scale proportionally with the amount of weight that is on the bar. So if you're doing curls with 100 pounds, you're going to be using more energy than a guy who's doing curls with 50 pounds. And so your ability to sustain you're going to be fatigued or burning out the energy that's inside of that muscle over time, not being able to allow you to perform as many reps. So this is why in the beginning, as a beginner, you might be able to do a lot more volume of stuff before you fatigue, right? And then as you get more into advanced training and you're stronger, you're not going to need as much of that. Hey guys, Aaron Kubitz, personal trainer, functional aesthetics EC, helping average guys perform better inside and outside the gym. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about an advanced training technique that is also a very popular training technique, and this is called drop sets. And so first and foremost, I'm just going to explain what drop set is. If you're not familiar with drop sets, I'm going to explain why you'd want to do drop sets, how to do drop sets, and then when to employ drop sets for the best effect. So first and foremost, drop sets is, as I said, an advanced training technique wherein you perform a set to momentary muscular failure and then immediately drop the weight, reduce the weight on the bar or on the weight stack by 10 to 30%. And so right off the bat, if you're planning on doing a drop set, you want to have calculated out what all these numbers are going to be right off the bat, so you don't have to spend time calculating what that number has to be. You can just, strip the weights off, drop the pins, or you can have all those weights set up. So if you have a bunch of sets of dumbbells or whatever, if you're doing biceps curls, you can have that all set up right off the bat. So for example, what one might look like, and this is just taking it from the standard way to do drop sets, and then I'm going to share my own personal experience of how it typically actually goes and what I believe contributes to that. So how you typically do a drop set is you're doing your, let's say you're doing your biceps curls. And you start off and you're doing like 6 to 8 repetitions, so a little bit of a heavier weight, right? At least for a single joint sort of exercise, right? 6 to 8 repetitions, you're going and you hit that momentary muscular failure, right? And then what you're going to do is go and pick up another set, another barbell or another set of dumbbells, which you predetermine what that weight should be. So for example, you start off and you're doing like 40 repetitions or 40 pounds for 6 to 8 reps. Then you drop it down, you're doing 30 pounds or 35 pounds with the, and then doing, let's say, 10 to 12 reps, right? And then you hit that failure again, you drop it down, and you're doing 25 pounds, and you go and you do 12 to 15 reps with that. Now, as you can see, as the weight is getting lower, the reps are going up. And this would make sense if you're doing straight sets and you have plenty of time to rest in between sets. But what I find that more often than not happens is when you're doing the drop set, you decrease the weight, and sometimes you're able to get the same amount of reps that you were in the first set, sometimes not. And usually as the sets progress down, you're not even able to get the same amount of reps that you were in the first set with the lighter amount of weight. And I think that this is especially true with people who are more advanced athletes. So if you've been training for a longer period of time, you're lifting a heavier weight, what will often happen is that you won't be able to do the same amount of sets or reps per set as you're dropping the weight, let alone doing more reps per set. And what I think this comes down to is that heavier weights are much more fatiguing than doing a lighter weight, right? What we know is that the amount of energy or the amount of calories burned scale proportionally with the amount of weight that is on the bar. So if you're doing curls with 100 pounds, you're going to be using more energy than a guy who's doing curls with 50 pounds. And so your ability to sustain you're going to be fatigued or burning out the energy that's inside of that muscle over time, not being able to allow you to perform as many reps. So this is why in the beginning, as a beginner, you might be able to do a lot more volume of stuff before you fatigue, right? And then as you get more into advanced training and you're stronger, you're not going to need as much of that. The other thing would be, what is your nutrient status? And so I'm going to save this for the section where I'm talking about why and when and why you'd want to, or when you would want to employ drop sets. Okay, so the way that I typically perform a drop set, as I said before, is instead of saying that I'm going to try to hit a certain amount of reps. I just take every set to failure and just try to go down just enough so that I can get a couple good solid reps in there. Because you want to be, in order to build more muscle, right, the primary driver of muscle growth is total workout volume, i.e. the amount of weight that's on the bar times the amount of reps you're doing times the number of sets that you're doing, right? And so if you decrease the weight on the bar too much and you're not able to do as many reps, you want to find that sweet spot that allows you to lift the most amount of weight within that set. And so usually a modest amount, sometimes like 10 to 20% drop in the weight to allow you to continue going, continue lifting the weight, but not so that you can do more total repetitions, because that might indeed cause you to actually get less total volume because the weight on the bar was too light. But again, you want to calculate that out before and be like, okay, well, if I drop it down by this amount and I do this amount of reps, what's the total volume? Okay, and if I drop it down by less amount of weight and do less reps, what's that amount of volume? And find the ideal amount that's going to allow you to do the total amount that you need. And again, this is why this is best employed when you are fully charged up, right? When you have plenty of calories, when you're in like a bulking season, right? If you're and you're progressively trying to get stronger, right? And then you get to a point where you hit a plateau, and so you're like, okay, at the end of this workout, let's drop it down. And I've been stuck at this weight for a long period of time. Let's continue to drop the weight down a little bit so I can get a little bit more training volume in, which will increase my work capacity, so that eventually, hopefully, I'll be able to, when I recover from that, I'll be able to come back and be able to actually lift more weight for my actual working sets. Okay, so that's one of the reasons why you'd want to use that. But in order to be able to do that, it's going to require energy. This is why it's not to be good to be doing this on a cut, especially in the latter phases of a cut when you don't have as much energy in the muscle. Now, at the beginning stages of a cut, it could be okay to do that, right? Because you have, if you're just coming off of a bulk and you have plenty of energy in there and you're just starting into your calorie deficit, it's going to take a while to get in your calorie deficit. And so from time to time, you can use that higher reps at the end of the workout to help get you into that deficit further, to help deplete the muscle. But you always want to make sure that the first and foremost, the primary thing is that you're maintaining your strength in your primary sets so that you can maintain your muscle mass as you are cutting down and getting leaner. Okay, so this brings me to the final stage of the video where we're going to talk about the when and the why. So first we talk about why. So why would you want to incorporate drop sets? As I talked about before, is that it can help you to break a plateau. Another reason for it, and probably the most significant reason, is it's going to help you save time. They have done numerous studies comparing straight sets, which is where you go and you do number of reps, you rest for, 60 seconds to 2 minutes, depending on what the exercise you're doing. If you're doing like, compound movements, multi-joint movements, maybe up to that 2 minutes. If you're doing compound movements, maybe up to 2 minutes of rest in between sets. If you're doing barbell rows or something, maybe 90 seconds of rest in between sets. And if you're just doing biceps curls, 60 seconds should be sufficient for you, right? But at any rate, you're stopping, setting down the bar, taking a rest period, and then go pick up the exact same weight and go ahead and do it again. And so they compared, one particular study was in a meta-analysis which is basically where you combine 6 different studies together, right? And they took all the data from these 6 different studies. It was a total of 142 different people, and they compared their the results between doing drop sets and doing straight sets. And what they found is that there was actually no difference in muscular growth between doing drop sets or doing straight sets. And this has been borne out in the majority of other studies done on drop sets as well. And so drop sets are not going to give you more benefits than just doing a regular form of sets as far as when it comes to muscular hypertrophy. Now, if it's increasing the total amount of volume in your workout, yes, it might help you to break through a strength plateau, right, by just increasing the work capacity as I talked about before. But what they did find in the study is that the drop set group, doing the same amount of volume as the straight set group, it took them 1/3 to 1/2 the amount of time to complete their workout as the other group. So as long as you are able to lift the same amount of weight in the same amount of time, it's going to increase your overall level of fitness, because you're going to have more endurance, more stamina and stuff to be able to, go, faster through your workout. But the only downside of this is that, yes, if you are able to complete the same amount of volume, then it will be beneficial for you. If you have sufficient time to work out, I would recommend going with the straight sets, because it's highly unlikely that you're going to be able to lift the same amount of weight in the subsequent set, and that's why they actually call it a drop set, right? It's highly unlikely that your training volume is going to stay the same when you are not giving yourself any rest in between sets. Yeah, maybe you're doing a little bit more repetitions with that lighter load, but as I said before, that's usually not the case. Even as you're dropping the load, you'll be lucky to get the same amount of reps that you got in the first set. So, if your primary goal, and this is just in my opinion, through my experience, if your primary goal is maximizing muscle size, it would be better to just do the straight sets so that you can lift more weight per set, thus accumulating more total volume in your workout. Alright guys, this concludes the video, and I do have one bonus tip for you here. In my experience, a good way to just know when to employ a drop set, because oftentimes as you're doing your workout, you're not really going to know until the end, right? I like to kind of train just, based upon what my body is performing at, right? I don't like to really necessarily hold back if I can do more, right? And so what I find is that if you get to the end of your set, right, and let's say for example, you were planning on doing, 4 sets, 6 sets of like 8 repetitions or something like that for biceps curls, right? And you get to that last set and you're not able to hit the full 8 repetitions. Then and if the thing is that it just got too heavy for you, but you still have more energy, that's the key, right? If you still have more energy to continue working out, but the weight is just absolutely too heavy, this is when it would be a good time to incorporate a drop set, because you have the energy to do it, it's just that you just don't have the muscle strength. So by accumulating that extra workout, extra volume in the workout, you're going to increase your work capacity, and hopefully over time, you're going to be able to level it out so that you're able to do all the sets at that heavier level of weight, because you are increasing your capacity to work and the total volume that you're doing. Alright guys, if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and hit the like button in the lower, and then yes, go ahead and hit the like button. And then if you'd like to hear more information related to workout design, whether it's for building muscle, for athletic performance, losing body fat, and then also how to prevent injuries from occurring, and then how to work around those injuries should you sustain them, as is likely. The longer you do any sort of athletic endeavor, the longer you do anything in life, the more likely it is that you are going to sustain an injury, and that's just the nature of the beast. And many people will shy away from strength training and thinking that lifting weights or exercising is inherently dangerous. But the fact of the matter is, you're more likely to get hit by a car or crash in an airplane than hurting yourself in the gym if you're doing your stuff correctly. But the thing is, when you're doing something for, if you've done thousands of hours of a particular activity, it just greatly increases the likelihood that there is something that's going to happen. So if you do sustain an injury, I also share some tips from time to time on how to get around those injuries as well. So if any of that stuff sounds interesting to you, if that's right up your alley, then go ahead and hit the subscribe button in the lower right hand corner of the screen, and we'll see you all next time for more health and fitness information.